Graphs of logarithmic functions, example 2. Consider the function f of x is e to the x minus 4 plus 1. The first thing we want to do is find the inverse function. So let y be equal to e to the x minus 4 plus 1, and then we interchange x and y. And now we want to make y the subject of the formula. So let's subtract 1 from each side. And then let's take the inverse function here. So natural log of both sides. So we've got ln of x minus 1 is equal to, well, if we do the inverse function of this, we're just going to end up with y take away 4. And therefore y is equal to 4 plus ln x minus 1. So we can say the inverse function of x is 4 plus ln x minus 1. State any axes, intercepts, or asymptotes. Well, we can say straight away, because of this plus 1, and we know the shape of an exponential, we can say that y equals 1 will be an asymptote. And the curve will be shaped like this. The only intercept, therefore, is the y-axis. And of course, the y-axis is where x is equal to 0. So y is going to be e to the negative 4 plus 1. And so we can say the asymptote is the line y equals 1. And the axis intercept is going to be at 0, e to the negative 4 plus 1. State the domain and range for each function. So we have f of x and we have the inverse here. I'm going to make a little table. And we'll have the domain and we'll have the range. So for the original function, we know there's no problem with input into an exponential. So the domain is just going to be all reals. That means that the range for the inverse must be all reals. Now we already discussed with this one that it would have a horizontal asymptote, y equals 1, and it would go up like this. So the range is going to be y is a real, y is greater than 1, and that means that the inverse function must have domain. X is a real, x is greater than 1. And if we actually look at this, that makes sense, because if we had an x that was 1 or less, we'd be inputting a value into the log we know we can't take. We can't take ln of 0, and we can't take ln of a negative number. We want to sketch the graphs of f and the inverse on the same axes. So we know that the asymptote of this one is y equals 1. And we know the shape of that. It's going to go like this. And we worked out this intercept before. And the intercept there, so when x was 0 is, it crosses at 1. Could do without that line. 1 take away, 1 plus e to the negative 4. Now, that means that the asymptote for the inverse function would be the reflection of this one in y equals x, which is x equals 1. And we can actually see that again by looking at the function. And so it must come up this way and go over like so, and it would cross here at 1 plus e to the negative 4. And then we'll just add to that the line y equals x to show that they're reflections of each other.